So good evening, everybody. A very warm welcome to all of you at Tushita today. Delhi, as you know, is very polluted, but I think you have really dared to come here today. So most welcomed. And I'm very happy to welcome Venerable Lhundup Jamyang to our center again. And now she's seeing a renovated Tushita, and she's very happy to be here.
Yes.
Yeah, we thought to welcome you, to have you back. We have to do it. It's mandatory for us. So, just a brief introduction to Venerable. Venerable Jamyang is from the Netherlands and came into contact with Tibetan Buddhism in 1997 at Tushita in Dharamsala. She connected very strongly with late Venerable Lama Zopa Rinpoche and was ordained in 2000 at Kopan Monastery in Nepal. She has completed the 5-year basic program at Jamyang Institute, Australia, and the 7-year master's program in advanced Buddhist studies at Institute Lama Tsongkhapa in Italy, including the mandatory 1-year retreat. Between 2007 to 2009, she worked at Buddha House both as their SPC and a teacher. Venerable Jamyang has also been teaching at centers in Australia, New Zealand, the US, and India. We are very happy to have you with us again, Venerable.
Thank you.
And today, Venerable is going to give us a teaching on the healing power of compassion.
Yes.
So, I'm sure your lecture is going to heal us. Thank you.
I hope so.
So I request you to please teach.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Love you, seeing all of you here in person and online. It's very nice to be back in Delhi, although the condition is a bit tough, no? It's a lot of pollution. Yeah, but excited to be back for a little while. And so thank you, Nico, for inviting me and Renuka to give a small talk, or not a small talk, but a short talk on the healing power of compassion. Nico and I were a little bit brainstorming. What are we going to talk about? What would be useful? Thinking about how life is functioning at the moment and how we are pulled in all kinds of directions, and that it is hard to really stay connected with yourself and with what is wholesome, and to look into why is it like that and what can we do about it? How can we connect with that, actually that natural quality that is available to us, which we all have naturally, right? Coming from a mother, or coming from not just being a human being, but somehow it is embedded in the nature of the mind. And so, but then in life we lose it. We lose the connection again and again and again. So why is it that we lose the connection, and how can we reconnect? I thought maybe we're going to talk about that, to strengthen our wisdom mind so that we know better, so that when these difficult points come and we have to make a choice, that we know, oh, now I'm going to choose for this, you know? Or when we are challenged and we are about to turn away from that compassion, that we can say, oh, I understand now what is happening, and I'm not going to turn away, you know? So that when we have more wisdom, when we have more understanding, then when we are in a more difficult situation, where we tend to choose something that is maybe not wholesome for us, we have something to rely upon. Oh, I know why it doesn't work. I know why it is not good for me. You know, and that strengthens the decision that we make. Hello. Nice to see you. So, when we speak about compassion, and when we speak about, you know, especially when we do spiritual, when we try to develop spiritually, then compassion is always a quality that we strive for, right? And why is that? Why is that? Why do we want to develop compassion?
So that we can be happy.
So that we can be happy. You give us the perfect answer because it leads to happiness. Is that a natural answer, or is that something that we think, oh, really? I thought it was just because we want to be good human beings, right? We should become good, and so therefore we should choose for compassion. But do we know that that is actually what makes us happy? No, right? We don't think about compassion like that. Renuka does, because she has been long-term student. But actually that's true. And so when we look into our life and how we are motivated in life, how we engage with life, we are always looking for happiness, right? Always. We're always looking for being free from discomfort, from unhappiness. Always. It's like in the back of our mind, something is registering all the time, happy, not happy, comfortable, not comfortable, and then trying to redirect the mind to more comfort, more happiness, right? All the time. And so that in itself, there's nothing wrong with that. We want to be happy, right? His Holiness even says that's the purpose of life, becoming happy. But then if we look into we can say, okay, I've been trying to be happy my whole life, and have we found it? No, not yet, no. It's like sometimes it looks like we're going to find it, and then it disappears again. And sometimes we think, oh, if I have that done, I'm going to be happy, and we have it. And then within no time, that feeling of happiness is gone. And it is like, do we not understand how to do this, right? I don't know, when I was young, I was always looking around and I thought, these people, they look so happy, and it looks as if they just do that, they follow what they want to have, that they really become happy, but I don't have that feeling, you know? And I thought something must be wrong with me, that I don't have that feeling that it makes me happy. It doesn't make me happy, right? And so I was thinking, I thought a long time, what is wrong with me that I cannot find that happiness? And I understand now there's nothing wrong with me, in the sense that the way that we are kind of conditioned, the way that the mind works, and the way that we are looking for happiness naturally brings us to a lack of happiness, or it naturally brings us to a dissatisfaction. It never brings us to happiness, because the method that we are using doesn't have the qualities to bring real happiness. It's just not possible. Right? It's not possible. Did you know that? Maybe from experience, but then intellectually we can't accept that, right? How is that possible? How is that possible that I don't know how to become happy? But if we check the method that we are using, how do we find happiness? If we say it very simple, we follow our feelings, right? When pleasant feelings come, we want to have more of that. When unpleasant feelings come, we want to have less of that. We just follow. It's almost a hormonal thing, right? Unconsciously or subconsciously, we just follow that. And so if we then look, okay, so we follow our feelings, we follow therefore our attachment, we follow therefore our aversion, and both attachment and aversion are delusions. Right? And when there are delusions in the mind, delusions always exaggerate qualities, right? This is the nature of the delusions. So when I see something that I think, oh, that's going to make me happy, it is based on the attachment that arises in my mind, and my attachment colors that thing in a way that it adds qualities that are not there. And then I think, if I have that, I'm going to be happy. But I think if I have these qualities that I project onto that, I'm going to be happy. So then I get it. And then in my experience, these qualities are not there. So the happiness that I thought was going to come, it cannot come. Because that thing doesn't have the qualities that I thought that it has, right? So then there is always disappointment. There is always dissatisfaction, because the attachment projects something that is not there. Right? So that way that we try to find happiness based on following our feeling, based on following our attachment, based on following our aversion when things happen that we do not like, never ever has the capacity to bring happiness, to bring real happiness, happiness that is stable, happiness that is more than a feeling. It just doesn't have the capacity. Can you see that? Somebody is doing puja upstairs. So this is the way that we in general find happiness, right? Following the feelings. And then we can look into, okay, well, if that doesn't do it, what other options are there in the world to find happiness? And then what do we find? We come here to class. In Buddhism, there must be something that brings us happiness. But what is it that we learn that brings us to different states of happiness?
Getting rid of our miseries.
Getting rid of our miseries. And what does that mean, our miseries?
Wherever they come from our own afflictions, trying to remove them.
Mm-hmm. So if we would say getting rid of your afflictions, instead of getting rid of your miseries, would that be true?
To some level.
Uh-huh. If we would get rid of our afflictions, how would that make us happy? Not sure. We're not sure. I should look online if people are not sure they are. That's already difficult, no? So when I talk about when we have this when a happy feeling comes, that we react with our attachment, and when unhappy feelings come, we react with our aversion, then we know that when the aversion is in the mind, we want to get rid of that, right? We want to get rid of the unpleasantness. But what about the good part? What about the attachment and the pleasant feelings? Right? Because when I say when we try to get rid of our afflictions, we also have to let go of our attachment, which is connected to pleasant feelings. And we are like, well, that I don't really want to let go of. This part, yes, but not that part. No? It's hard, no? Because we have nothing else. I think this is what makes it hard. We have no alternative. So then when we hear, I need to let go of my attachment, what we hear is, I need to let go of my happiness. No, I can't do that, right? And I agree. We're not going to let go of our happiness, right? We're trying to find happiness, and we need to try to find happiness. We should never give that up. You know, I think our wish to find happiness is what eventually brings us to enlightenment, is what brings us eventually to developing our full potential of wisdom and compassion, because that is the state in which we are most happy. There is not a happier state of mind possible. Yeah? So our wish to become happy eventually will take us there. Right? So what we need to look at the method that we are using to find that happiness, not letting go of the happiness. So finding happiness by way of the afflictions doesn't bring happiness. Finding happiness, then what we also have, that we find it in Buddhism as well, we find it also in other traditions, where we develop the concentrations, right? We're going to develop all the levels of concentrations and the absorptions. There is a fantastic feeling of bliss arising in the mind. Eventually, we even find that bliss too coarse, so we want to develop a more subtle state of mind. And we go more subtle, and the mind becomes very, very, very peaceful. Right? And so then we might think, wow, this is it. Right? This is the best state of happiness. I'm going to stay here forever. But according to Buddhism, that state of mind is also part of samsara. One day we have to come back from that state of mind. And then there we come back to that afflicted state of mind that we have at the moment. So that is not going to give us a solution which is going to last forever. It's just a temporary way of getting out of the coarse sufferings of samsara, getting away from the coarse attachment. But it is still working on the basis of more subtle attachment. You know, more subtle, more subtle, more subtle, more subtle, but still attachment. So then the next option that we have is get rid of all the afflictions altogether, right? What we're a little bit scared of, because then what is going to bring us happiness when we do that? But if we can see that the mind of the afflictions is not a peaceful mind, right? Even the mind of attachment, when we have strong attachment in the mind, is that peaceful? Right? When there is anxiety in the mind, it's not a peaceful mind. We want to get rid of it. And then even if we are constantly chasing the things that we think is going to make us happy, the chasing itself is not a nice state of being, no? And then we have it, and even that is not a real happiness. And somehow we keep doing it because we believe one day it's going to happen, but it's not. Right? And we have to become so sick of it that we are really willing to try something else. But it's hard to get to that, no? To really get to that renunciation where we say, oh, it is the attachment, because it's so tricky. So then what Buddhism says is that if we want to really become free, you know, finding a happiness that is a freedom, right? Happiness, when we find the happiness, I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit too fast for my own mind. If we find the happiness within these concentrations, that is still a happiness that is conditioned, you know, that is still based on conditioning. I need to have that state to feel happiness. It is not a state that is there without depending upon causes and conditions. It does depend upon causes and conditions. So what Buddhism is talking about when we speak about liberation from samsara, or when we talk about enlightenment, that is a state in which there is no more attachment, no more aversion, but where there is a freedom from that. And when we have a freedom of attachment and aversion and anger and all the delusions that come from that, that freedom that comes with so much bliss, that comes with so much joy. And that bliss and joy is not something that is created, that depends upon causes and conditions. That bliss and joy is a natural experience that is coming from the mind, which is actually waiting inside us to be uncovered. Right? It is now covered up by the afflictions because we believe so strong in the afflictions and we therefore follow the afflictions. But if we would step back and allow the afflictions to disappear, that will help us to connect with our inner joy, which is there, you know. It's not created and doesn't depend upon causes and conditions. So when we can start to touch that kind of feeling inside ourselves, based on developing our mind, then we develop a state of happiness, which is just there. Right? Whether good things happen in my life or bad things happen in my life, it doesn't really affect me. It doesn't affect the joy that is there. Right? So it might affect us on the surface a little bit, but I also have this joy. And that is not going to be touched by whatever happens in life. Right? So when we speak about happiness, I would like you to think about that type of happiness. Right? Unconditioned happiness. That's real happiness, right? Something is real when the more we have of it, the happier we feel. Right? If we look into our happiness and what brings us happiness, then when we say, well, the more I have of that, the happier I become. Is that true? So for instance, chocolate is making me happy. And then I say, the more I have of that, the happier I'm going to be. Or I'm very happy with my little dog, Well, the more dogs I have, the happier I'm going to become. No, right? So this is what we can always wonder if I believe, wow, that is going to make me really happy. Well, what if you have 10 of that? Right? And then, oh, no, only one is enough, one is enough. So then we know, well, that is not real happiness. It is a pleasure, you know? And so does that mean that therefore we cannot enjoy the pleasures anymore, right? If you hear me say that, I'm not trying to say that. As long as we are in this life, which is conditioned, in which things depend upon causes and conditions, we have our preferences. There are things that we really enjoy. And when they come to us, not when we go and hunt them, but when they come to us, we should fully enjoy them, right? Because they're coming from our merit, they're coming from our good fortune. So we should fully enjoy that, but we should try not to get attached to that. Right? And when negative things come in our way, and we have the possibility that we can divert the mind or that we can remove ourselves from the situation, we should do so. Right? So if we are, it's not that I'm saying when you are in an abusive situation and you can run away, that you should stay in order to practice. I don't think that is healthy. I think when you can get away, you should get away. But when you cannot get away, then we can use our practice. Right? So as long as we have this emotional reactions that have that show the aspect of making us happy and free of suffering, we will be under the influence of that for a long time, right? When we are trying to get on the path, even when we are on the path, we are still under the influence of that. So we cannot just say, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore. We will do that, but we can have a little bit of a different attitude towards the pleasures that we experience and the displeasures that we experience. Right? Just relate differently to that. Then it becomes not so unhealthy. Then it becomes not such a cause for further suffering, right? Which is important. So we have. So these are the things that we can do in order to find happiness. And then there is one left, right? Which is what we're going to talk about tonight, which is the compassion. And while I was preparing for this evening, I was thinking about all the religions that we have in the world, you know, that are actually all talking about developing the mind of compassion. True? It's like when we practice religion is teaching us how not to follow that self-grasping mind, how not to follow that self-cherishing mind, but to think about others, to do something for others. True? Or not? I'm not sure. If you come up with examples which is not true, then you tell me, right? So the way that religion teaches that is that they say if you they give reasons why you should do that. Right? And these reasons, they can be, for instance, I mean, I'm growing up as a Catholic, so then you need to become a good girl in order to go to heaven, right? And if you become a bad girl and you do these kind of actions, then you go to hell. Whether that heaven and hell is there, I don't mind so much, but what you get taught is a set of values. These are the values. This is how we relate to each other in society. You're not here just for you. You are here as part of a group. So it is not just about your happiness. It is about everybody's happiness. It is not that you are more important than anybody else. Sometimes you are, but most of the time you're not. Whatever. It's like you learn how to work with that self-grasping mind, that me that is popping up and that wants attention and that has all these needs and is, you know, wants to be the middle of the group. That self gets the kind of trained how not to follow that too strong Because if we do, we have a problem. We have a problem in relation to the gods. We have a problem in relation to the group. And maybe we have, right? So it brings problems when we do that. And we are taught that in all religions. Right? True or not? And so then the remedy that is given to that is that instead of following that self-grasping mind, that we practice more compassion. Right? So then when somebody, for instance, what do we do with people who are sick and old? Right? We need to take care of them. Where is that care coming from? That's from compassion. Are we always in the mood of doing that? No, we are not. So then we need some reasons why we do that, right? So then we are told that these people, they have been, either they didn't have the good fortune to have a healthy body, or they didn't have the good fortune for whatever, so therefore they are problems now. I mean, I learned when I was younger, God has given you all the tools, all the qualities that you can help that person. You should be proud of that. And that person doesn't have that, it's not their fault. They can't help that, right? So you help. You should do that naturally. It's your nature to do that, right? And if I have more money than you and you are starving, then I should give you some money. I should not think this is just mine. It's my duty to give you some money, right? So that we share. And so when we share, then we're all happy. Right? I'm happy because I could give, and you're happy because you receive and you can buy food. Right? So we learn these values in religion. True? Did you have that in your education? No. No? You grew up as Hindus? You also have that, no? Something.
Yeah, we grew up as Hindus, but we were not taught
No?
to be compassionate. Like it comes from within ourselves, but not through religion. Like if you go to a temple or something, or you attend some puja, you're not taught to be compassionate.
Right. But so where were you taught to be compassionate?
I think family is
values within the family?
Yeah.
That this is how you do things?
Yeah. But yeah, at least for me, religion didn't.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I say religion, maybe it is families, maybe, but it is more in the past, no? That it naturally was passed on. This is how we do things. And I think it has its root in religion, but maybe that's not true. Maybe it's actually coming just from human beings, right?
There's a concept of seva in Hinduism.
What is that?
Seva.
Seva,
Yeah.
of offering service.
Service, yeah.
Yeah.
Or karma yoga, things like those come from Hinduism as far
Yes.
as that. But obviously it's probably more about modernity maybe, that we are not really taught those values in childhood.
We are leaving that. We are.
Yeah.
That is kind of
But
leaving
traditionally
the
that
mind. No, traditionally that was done like that,
Yeah.
but somehow it is disappearing out of society. That whole education about how to be with human beings so that we are all okay, that is leaving society, right? It's not about that we're all okay. It's about I should be okay. You should take care of yourself. Nobody else is going to do it. You have to do it. Right? We are having more and more that kind of tradition that we are passing on, which comes with a lot of, a whole set of, I think with a whole set of problems that we then have to deal with, and we don't have any tools to deal with it. And that was actually our inspiration to talk about this tonight, no? Because we have all these problems arising.
But, I was just thinking
Yes.
that there are different degrees of compassion, and
Yes.
there are different kinds of compassion.
Yes.
For example, the politicians also claim that they are compassionate. The religious leaders also claim that they are compassionate. Families think that they are compassionate towards
Yes.
the children. Friends, schools, teachers.
Yes.
So I think there are different degrees and kinds of compassion.
Yes, and we also might sometimes use it with our words, but not in our actions, right? And sometimes we appeal to that compassion while in actuality we are doing something else. I mean, so yes, there are different ways of compassion. Many people they preach compassion. Compassion can be quite it's like a fashion. We are practicing compassion. We are the ones who are doing it. But we have to investigate that compassion, because compassion, we have embedded it in our nature. So sometimes compassion can easily come, right? In situations, there are situations that our compassion easily comes, because for instance, you are with your family, you are with somebody that you love a lot, you are with people that you have a strong affinity with, then compassion is not so difficult to come. When you see them suffering, you wish them to be free of suffering. When you see that they need something, you are very willing to help them to get that, right? Compassion easily comes. But then when there are people that we do not like, or people who have harmed us, or people about whom we have a strong judgment, like, or these people, they are not good, so we're not going to help them, right? Suddenly our compassion is gone. Compassion is not there. And especially when there are people who have hurt us, it's not that we don't wish them suffering, right? We do the opposite. We wish them suffering, right? So suddenly the heart is closed, and I wish you the opposite. So our compassion is very biased. When we like something, compassion can come. You know, our nature opens up. Then the mind, the heart opens up, the mind opens up, because I like you. So maybe I feel safe with you. Maybe there is something here to gain for me. Maybe I like the feeling that is coming from our connection. Then it's very easy to have compassion, because that shows it's part of our nature, right? But then when things happen that we don't like, or when somebody hurts us, or when somebody scolds at us, or when somebody is, for instance, having a lifestyle that we do not like or that we don't agree with, then suddenly that compassion changes into the opposite, and we start wishing people harm, right? So this is our problem. So the challenge, if we are serious about developing compassion, then we have to find a way to bridge that lack of equanimity that we have. We need to somehow find a way to address that biased mind. That biased mind that says, you're good, I'm going to help you, but you're not good, I'm not going to help you. Right? If we can find a way of thinking that we say, I'm going to help everyone, no matter what you think, no matter what you do, no matter what you have done to me, you know, because what would be our reason that we would like to help? That we say, this is why I would overcome my biased mind. They benefit us. Is that what overcomes your biased mind, or is that what creates your biased mind?
We have to start at 0 level.
This is what causes your biased mind, right? As long as they benefit me, then I'm compassionate towards you. But if you stop benefiting me, then the compassion is gone, right? So we think about, what can you do for me? Right? So one way that we can address that is that we, instead of thinking, what can you do for me? What is in here for me? What can I give to you? Right? JFK, right? Don't ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, right? We can apply that to our daily life with respect to compassion, with respect to anyone that we meet. Instead of that normal state of mind that thinks, oh, what can I get out of this relationship? That we think, what can I give to this relationship? What can I give to this person? Right? So that's one shift that we can make. Another thing that we can do is that when we move through life, what the mind is easily looking at, and I have the feeling we get quite encouraged to do that, is we're looking at where we are different from each other. You know, you're not looking like me, therefore I don't like you. You're not dressed like me, therefore I don't like you. You're not thinking like me, so therefore I don't like you. You're not... We like the comfort of having the same. Oh, I like you so much because we have so much in common and we talk in the same way, and right, we like that. But if there are differences, that we have trouble. We become uncomfortable.
The recent American election.
The recent American election, what?
The differences?
It was made on the differences.
Between the Republicans and the Democrats, yeah.
There was a huge difference.
So they were not willing to be compassionate towards the other.
Well, I think when you have an election, then they go on the differences between each other, no? But you can have parties who are focused on the differences, and then you have parties that are more focused upon let's do this together, right? But then they still are in battle with each other. So politics is a very difficult area to expect the people to just practice compassion, no? Because I don't think in this world we would win it, right? It would be although I think when we practice compassion we become a winner, but I think in terms of society we might not be seen as a winner, right? Because society has different ideas about what a winner is. Can we go back to that question? You gave it. What was that? What were you saying? Oh yes, we are looking at the differences, right? So, what if we would look at the similarities, and we say, "You're the same as me, in that you want to be happy. You're the same as me, in that you want to be free from suffering. You're the same in me that you are struggling with finding a good job. You are the same as me in having problems with your relationship. You're the same as me," and you go out from that sameness. You're the same as me. Then what happens in the heart?
Start empathizing.
We start empathizing. Does it soften a little bit? It opens up. We let go of our protection, right? Because when I see a difference, I immediately have a kind of a wall that I build up. So at the moment I see, oh, you're actually the same, I drop it. I drop my wall. I drop what separates us. If I see that we are different, there is a separation. Right? In order to have compassion, I have to drop the separation. Right? If we look into what compassion really does, I think compassion is that what connects. It's that what connects. And I think what we suffer from, when we suffer from pain, when we suffer even from believing in the self, when we suffer from trying to get what we want and trying to be free of what we do not want, we are actually disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from reality, disconnected from and therefore in relationship with others. What compassion does, compassion brings us back to the connection. When we experience connection, what do we feel when we experience connection? How do we feel? Comfortable. Comfort comes, right, with connection. What else?
We feel loved.
We feel loved. Love is coming. What else? We're not alone. Very good.
And you feel healed.
and you feel healed, right? This is where we want to go. We're going to feel whole, right? We feel whole. We feel whole. It's like all is good. Within compassion, all is good. So we can sit with a friend, and the friend is talking about all their the suffering that they go through, and we are fully present and we are fully connecting with that person. How do we go away? We feel whole, we feel satisfied, we feel that we did something meaningful, we feel fantastic, right? And that other person, you have listened with your heart open, that person feels hurt, their pain has diminished, they feel much better, they feel life has purpose again, they can move on. Just because you have been willing to be with the person and you drop your separation. You make the connection. See, you're the same as me. I want to listen to you. So everywhere where we can connect, truly connect, pain falls away. True? Pain disappears. Not only the pain, but also the loneliness, the fears. We all suffer from this fear of abandonment. The moment we open up and we really truly connect with someone, we are not afraid that we're going to be abandoned, because the basis for being fully allowed to be who you are is there. You're seen, you're accepted, you are loved, you are cared for, you are allowed to be who you are. When compassion is there, all these qualities are there. So no need to feel afraid that once you open up that they're going to say, no, we don't like you anymore, go away. When compassion is there, that's not going to happen. Right?
In a doctor-patient relationship, they say that it's not only the doctor that heals the patient, but also the patient heals the doctor.
Oh, really?
Yes, It's a mutual process going on.
Yes.
So it's very interesting that the doctor is being compassionate towards the patient, and yet, the impact, the patient also impacts the doctor.
Yes. Or maybe even the compassion from the doctor itself can also be the thing that impacts the doctor.
Yes,
right?
But I think the connection with the patient
the
also
connection.
heals,
Yes,
heals the doctor.
It's true. That's true. That's true. I would then say that the compassion from the doctor for the patient is also what heals the doctor itself. So when we practice Buddhism, right, it's like it is compassion. We think, well, we do that for the other. No, actually, when we are really wise, we practice for ourselves. Because there is no better way to find happiness than by developing compassion, for ourselves. Right?
Wisely selfish, as His Holiness says.
Wisely selfish, yes. One minute, because I lose my track if I... You can ask a question later, yeah. I already lose track.
The doctor-patient.
The doctor-patient, and that we heal ourselves when we develop compassion, when we open up the heart. Yeah, so in the journey, the journey that I went, it took me a long time to really get to that wisdom that you can see, this is why the compassion is good for me. And I don't know if you guys are people pleasers, but I was a gigantic people pleaser. And so the people pleaser comes from a fear of rejection. And so it's opening the heart actually more than you intuitively maybe want, or it is more fear-based than really compassionate-based. And so then at a certain point, you always have this feeling that you get exhausted, that you become a little bit, you have a burnout, a compassion burnout. But I knew from the beginning, you need to know why developing compassion is really truly bringing you happiness. Because if you do it on the basis of fear, right, being afraid that people are going to reject you, it's not going to give you the satisfaction that you actually want. If you do it because you have to, it's also not going to work, right? So you need to go through the process in which you understand what you are suffering from. You need to wish for yourself to be free of that. And in dependence on that wish, you need to develop the wish for the other person to be free of that. Right? If you do not have that wish for yourself to be free of the suffering and are willing to do the actions that brings you freedom of the suffering, you cannot develop that compassion for others in a pure way. Maybe I'm going a little bit fast now in terms of, do you get that? Tell me your question.
I just wanted to ask, like when we are focusing on ourselves and what can we do for others, isn't there like a risk of inflating our own ego in the process of doing that? And how do we not do that? That we don't inflate our ego in the process of finding the similarities.
Yes, if we want to be compassionate towards others, how do we not inflate our ego? I'm such a good person like this. I'm such a good person, I'm doing this for this and this person. So we always have to check our motivation. Where am I coming from? Why do I want to do good to others, right? And so in order to understand why we are, I think, even if it is for your ego, doing good is better than not doing good. Right? So you're doing good and then you wonder and then you start developing your wisdom mind, but don't stop being good because it might puff up your ego, right? So then when we think about why am I good? Can you see that when you are good for others, you're good for yourself? Truly good for yourself? That you acknowledge your own nature? That you acknowledge something in yourself that is there. But most of the day, we I don't know how about you, but it is not something that everybody naturally uses, that inner goodness, right? Most people are quite selfish. Most people are focused upon themselves. So when they start doing something good, we need to understand why it is wise to be good, right? So when we think about happiness, where's happiness coming from, and we think about suffering and where suffering is coming from, at the moment our mind works, we are emotional beings and we follow, the feelings. When I feel good, I follow that with attachment, and I think my happiness is coming from that. I would like to have this and this and this, so I'm chasing after that, and then I have it, my happiness is coming from that, right? But if we look into Buddhism, and Buddhism says, where is happiness coming from and where is suffering coming from? Then what is Buddhism saying about that? Where is our happiness coming from? Nico? You must know that.
I don't have happiness myself, so I cannot really answer.
Maybe you know it by intellectually, but you haven't integrated that emotionally.
Actually, I can see in my experience that when I help others, I feel happy immediately.
When you help others, you
Yeah.
feel happy. But in general, if we talk and think about the Lam Rim, and we go through the Lam Rim already in the small scope, Buddha gives advice on how to avoid creating. Now I'm putting the words in
Yes.
your mouth.
No, but refraining from non-virtues
Refraining from non-virtue,
and engaging only in wholesome actions. then-
engaging in wholesome actions. That already, this creates the causes for happiness, right?
Well, for pleasure, at least creates the causes for pleasure.
Well, that's what we call, yes.
The 6 perfections. That is what
Engaging in the 6 perfections, correct. Yes, so pleasure is a form of happiness,
Yes, yes.
but happiness is not necessarily pleasure,
True.
right? We have no other happiness than pleasure. So we can't call pleasure not a happiness. In our life, that's the best happiness that we have at the moment, right? Yeah. So Buddhism tells us that if we follow wholesome actions, then we create the causes for happiness. Then we create the causes that whatever we need will come to us. When we give other people what they need, whatever we need will come to us. We think I need to chase what I need, otherwise I'm not going to get it. And so therefore I won't give too much attention to the others, right? To give them what they need, as long as I have what I need. And then if I have some time left, I might give something to others. Well, Buddhism says if you help others to get what they need, whatever you need will come automatically to you. Right? So this is a shift for our mind, right? In the beginning we are like, oh, I can't trust that, I can't believe that. So if we want to develop compassion, we need to practice this for ourselves, right? Compassion for myself means I want to be free of suffering. If I practice that for myself, I have to stop engaging in non-virtuous actions. That's the best way to be compassionate for myself. I have to engage in virtuous actions. I have to practice the 6 perfections. That's the best way to be compassionate for myself. True? Do we think like that? We think I'm going to be compassionate for myself. I'm going to give myself an ice cream today because I need it. Right? Or something new shoes or new whatever. Right? That's our compassion. Is that compassion? It's just giving us a pleasurable feeling, right? And so, yes, we can do that. Sometimes that is what keeps us going. But it's not real compassion, right? So we need to dig a little bit deeper. And so when you ask if I'm going to be good for others, it is boosting my ego, then you can think, how are you good for yourself? You know, are you truly good for yourself that you say, I do not want to engage in this kind of actions because I know it's going to bring me suffering? And I am going to engage in these kinds of actions because I know it's going to bring me happiness. If you can do that and you practice that, and then from that you help others, great. Or if you help others and you think, I'm going to give these people what I also need. You know, for instance, we all need love, right? We all need love. So what if I give that to others? Which is my way of being compassionate for myself and compassionate towards others. Because I know that we need it. I know I need it. And when I need it, I'm also pretty sure that you need it. Right? And I hand out from that mind. Then is that, if I'm good like that, is that the ego, boosting the ego or not? It doesn't, huh? So you need just to change a little bit the frame of your mind. And then the ego is not there anymore. The ego is not there anymore. I think when we start really applying the advice from the Buddha in how to find happiness and how to be free of suffering, we are already counteracting the ego. You know? Then when we do good for others, we don't have to be afraid of that ego. Okay? Let me see what else I wanted to say. When I was just upstairs, there was this picture from Lama Zopa Rinpoche which says, live with compassion, work with compassion, die with compassion, meditate with compassion, enjoy with compassion, and when problems come, experience them with compassion. Right? And maybe the first part, we think, oh yeah, I can do that. Oh yeah, I can do that. And then the last one, when problems come, experience them with compassion, their mind is like, not sure about that. You know, and when we speak about compassion and opening the heart, and then I hope that you can see that we need this basis from the Lam Rim. that we have to do the practices of the small scope being, we have to do the practices of the medium scope being before we can actually have the basis in the mind for these great scope practices, that we cannot start just from where we are. Oh, I open my heart. Because when we start where we are, our mind doesn't have the equanimity, right? So then without that equanimity, whatever we're going to do is always biased. And so then if we want to address that equanimity, then we do not have any problems with wishing our family, our friends, people that we love, wishing them the best and wishing them to be free of suffering. We do have problems with those who have harmed us to wish them to be free of suffering. We also, I think, have trouble with ourselves when we are suffering to be compassionate towards ourselves. Is that true? I'm not looking at you, Nico. My eye is going to everyone. How do we treat ourselves when we are in suffering? Are we kind? Huh? We scold ourselves. Stupid you. What do you say to yourself?
I shouldn't be feeling this, or I shouldn't be thinking this.
I shouldn't be feeling this, and I shouldn't be thinking this. Yes. What else?
I should be doing this, I should not be doing that.
The shoulds are coming. We beat ourselves up. We take the stick and we start beating. You should not do this. Stop it. But then the mind keeps going, yeah, and the body keeps going. And so, and that is why we are suffering. While we are suffering, we do that. So we add to our suffering, right? So how serious are we with compassion for ourselves? How do we practice compassion for ourselves? What would that mean? Huh? By eating chocolate. I'll make you free of suffering. I'll give you some more chocolate.
So one needs to analyze the situation at that time.
Yes.
And understand. That's the most important.
Analyze the situation or analyze your own feeling in yourself?
Your mind and the situation.
Yes.
Internal and external reality.
Yes. So you investigate the reality and see if what would you observe in that analysis?
What is your contribution to the situation? And what is the other's contribution to it? And then finally you come to an understanding that you can't blame your own self, you can't blame the other. It is the situation, it's the karmic ripening.
Right. And so is this what you guys are doing, not blaming yourself? You're a very wise woman, Renuka. You have to teach us, I want you to tell a little bit more about why do you not blame yourself? So if you have done something that was, maybe you think, looking afterwards, oh, that wasn't so clever, that was stupid, or why don't you beat yourself up?
Because I think I have to be honest to my own feelings. That's why I won't beat myself up. At that stage in my life, I felt in a certain way. And maybe out of ignorance or attachment, I did it.
Yes.
So why should I beat myself up? I have to understand, not judge myself. Sorry.
It's very beautiful, I get. Is that how we do it? We don't do that. You really should teach that here. Really, how to be self-compassionate, right? Because we don't know that. When we suffer, we start beating ourselves up. True? You see? They all beat themselves up.
You're still young.
Yeah.
I'm old.
Yeah, so you have that wisdom, how to stop beating yourself up and how to relate to yourself when you are suffering so that you relate in a compassionate way. Because when you can do that in relation to your own suffering, it's very easy to do it in relation to others' suffering. But when you beat yourself up when you're suffering, I'm not sure how you relate to others who are suffering from something similar. Right? What do you say to someone who is doing the same stupid thing as that you are doing and you beat yourself up for that? When others do that, what do you do with the other person?
Personally, I say we are in the same boat.
We're in the same boat.
And I give the advice that I'm not applying myself.
So you're kind to them.
I'm
You
trying.
say, it's okay, things happen. You don't tell them, or you should beat yourself up.
No, of course not.
You don't do that.
I think you should look at things in this way, and the Buddha said this, and you could try that. All the things I'm not doing that, but intellectually I know I should do it.
Right. So to our friends, and even maybe not friends, we give them the advice that we do not apply to ourselves. So how can we start being compassionate to ourselves? Can you see that if we would be compassionate to ourselves, that not only the relationship with ourselves changes, but also the relationship with others? You know, in Buddhism, we practice equanimity with the enemy, right? With someone who we don't like. But what if we practice equanimity with all these aspects in our own mind that we do not like? Because we treat them as our enemy, right? We treat them worse than we treat anybody else. So what if we see that these spots in ourselves that we see as enemies, that we see as parts that we don't like, parts that we want to get rid of, parts that have to change, what if we treat them with loving kindness and compassion? And say, well, it's just part of you, right? All these bits are part of you. And they're there due to causes and conditions. Right? And things go wrong not just because of you, but things go wrong due to many causes and conditions. You failed for your exam not just because maybe you didn't study enough, but there are many reasons why you didn't study enough, right? And that is not that you have control over all of that. Obvious, you don't have control over that. Because if you would have control, you would have studied. So you don't have control over that. So do you deserve to be beaten up over things that you don't know, that you're not in control of? Or could you say, well, yeah, there were so many things that I wasn't in control, right? My mind completely freaked out. I was so anxious, and I have this anxiety because I grew up without a dad, or I grew up without, with so much stress in the family. And so all that has brought me to the fact that now, this time I failed. Kind of natural that you failed. Really, no need to beat yourself up. Huh?
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. What would change if we would be able to do that? If we could soften our relationship with these aspects in ourselves that we do not like. If we would reconnect with all these aspects in ourselves that we find difficult to accept and that we would like to change, that we say, well, it is like that, right? Let me start where I am right now. I have these aspects. And it's okay. They are there for, due to a reason, right? Due to many reasons. They are there. Whether I like it or not, I better start liking it, right? Because they're going to be here for a long time. And also, when I truly connect with these aspects, they might become my friends and they might start helping me. Well, when I'm disconnected from the aspects, I see them as something that is outside of me, of which I have no control, of which maybe, things that I do not like, that I feel separated from. So then, as long as I feel like that, I cannot really use the power that is behind that. I cannot really use the energy that is behind that. But what if I reconnect with all these aspects in me? Because all these aspects have some kind of energy in them that we can transform into qualities. But in order for qualities to arise, we have to connect first. We have to connect with that energy. And so when we don't like certain things and we disconnect from that, we cannot use that energy that is behind it. For instance, you grew up as a, or whatever, little boy, little girl, and you throw these tantrums, right? I don't want to do this, I don't want to. And your mother didn't like you because of that aspect. And so you have learned that that aspect really makes you that you're not lovable, you're not likable. So better don't show that aspect. So when that part of you comes up, you already have this reaction, no, you know, I'm not going to let you come in the way. You know, you have to leave, you have to move, you have to, I'm not going to listen to you. So that energy that is behind that screaming boy or girl, you separate from that. You don't like it. So that energy is sitting there, cannot become anything except be that screaming boy and girl. Well, that energy, if we would connect with that, we can use that energy to go very fast towards Buddhahood, right? There's a lot of power in that energy. But to use that power, we need to make a connection with that. Right? So it is not that we are trying to become better people by trying to separate from our negative qualities. We are trying to become better people by connecting with all our negative qualities and letting go that assumption or that idea that these are negative by nature. They're not. Nothing is negative by nature. Right? Separation has happened due to an experience. Unpleasantness has happened due to an experience. There are pains inside us due to separation from aspects of ourselves. But what if we reconnect with them? And see that all these things that we do not like in ourselves, that they actually hold kind of secrets that are going to bring us, that are going to help us to connect with the best in ourselves. You know, these aspects became negative because they arose in a certain time, in a certain situation, and they were judged in a certain way, but they are not negative by nature. It's just due to conditions, you know, there was something unpleasant and you reacted to that. And you were shut down for that. That's it. So then instead of being shut down the whole time and you keep shutting it down, you open it up and say, okay, scream, I listen. You listen, right? You're not screaming to others, but you listen to that scream inside you. And by listening, you reconnect. When that scream feels hurt, you reconnect with that. And then that energy normalizes and becomes just part of you. Does that make sense?
But that negative energy could also be saying something that doesn't help others.
Yes, for sure.
How can you connect to that?
You can connect to that. Right? So if you have an energy, can you give me an example? Do you feel comfortable doing that?
For example, if I don't like somebody and I'm constantly in pain because of that, and my mind is screaming, and I listen to that, then I might end up just thinking, oh yeah, I'm right, that person is stupid.
Well, maybe that person is stupid, you know, but why are you reacting so strong to that? Because that is the only interesting thing to know. Why are you reacting to that? because in that reaction is your power. So you're seeing something that gives you an aversion, right? What is that you're seeing? And then I say, and what has that, what you see, to do with you? Because we see, oh, it's that person, that person, that person. You know, they have something that I don't like. And then we get very upset. But really, that being upset comes from you. So what is so important that you do not like that it makes you so upset? And what does that say about you?
Well, usually they say that you have those aspects within your own self.
Yeah, that is
You
one
don't
of the...
like that thing in your own self.
Sometimes that is that easy as that, yeah? That we have these aspects in ourselves that we see out there, and we don't like these aspects. We are disconnected with these aspects.
And we don't accept our shadow.
No, true. You did a lot of that work. You should really come and teach here. Really. It's that fantastic. She knows the mind, no? She knows the mind. So what if you see it like that? I know that I started practicing with that, right? Or you get so upset because you see something that is hidden in yourself. I could not recognize that, right? So I thought, I don't have that. Right? Sometimes, but then I started to, you can also do the opposite, right? Is if somebody has something that you really don't like, maybe there is something opposite that you need, but that you don't have and that you don't give to yourself. Can also be, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be. And then maybe a deeper layer is that you have that aspect that you actually saw in the other person. But it's sometimes difficult to get to straight away. So what is it that I have that they remind me of? And that what do you have can be a lack or can be something that is too much. You understand? Yes. So when we suffer trauma and we receive something that we don't want, it's quite easy to recognize, right? You remember your screaming dad or your whatever happened to you. You remember, oh yeah, they did something to me that I didn't like. But if we have not something, when we have not received something that we needed, this is much more difficult to recognize. When we have a strong need for something, we have this craving for something, that is often coming from that we did not receive that enough when we needed it, you know, when we were very, very young. And that need stays in the mind, keeps screaming, I need this, I need this. You know, that can also be that when you see something that agitates you, that it reminds you of that lack of something that you needed. Right? Whether we connect with what we received, what we didn't like, and we reacted to that, or whether we connect with the lack of something to which we reacted. You know, we need to connect with both of them. We need to reconnect with our reactions to whatever has happened to us. Right? What happened to us is not so important, but how we reacted to it and how we get stuck in the reactions. And then how we keep repeating these reactions and how we keep repeating the reaction in order to try to normalize that situation that happened a long time ago. And we didn't manage a long time ago, so it's not going to happen today either. Right? We need to find a different way of being with that. And so when we practice self-compassion, it's very important that we become mindful of the feelings that are within us, you know, these places that we don't like. We connect with these places, we become mindful. You can become mindful of where they are in the body, how they are feeling, and you give them space, you know, instead of pushing them away or beating them up, you give them space. And you say, oh, what kind of story do you have to tell? And you start listening to them, and then you listen to them with the mind as if you listen to your best friend and you talk to that aspect of you as if you speak to your best friend, right? You give all these advices to others. And so now you're going to do that to yourself. Right? So you're going to treat yourself in the same way as that you would treat your best friend, instead of the worst person in the world. And then when we reconnect with ourselves, when we can truly be with ourselves, a lot of the loneliness that we experience disappears because we feel reconnected. Even if we just see ourselves, if we hear ourselves, if nobody else can hear us, but I can hear me, can be enough to free me from a level of loneliness or aloneness or separation or a feeling of annihilation. We can free ourselves from that by reconnecting. And then when we know how to do that with ourselves, it becomes very easy to do that in relation to others. Because then when you have integrated all these bits that you at the moment do not like, or you react with an aversion to that, or with beating it up, if you reconnect with all these aspects, then when you see someone and they are in pain, you can see more than just a superficial pain. You can see what is behind that, right? It's what Renuka is doing at the moment. She knows where we're going with the story. She knows what we are doing because she has done it. Then it becomes easy, right? For you it's easy now, but it's a learning process, right? But no, when you have suffering, it's still difficult.
All I know is that I think I'm being tested today.
No, you're not. You're very loved.
Well, my experience has been that if your compassion develops in a deep manner, you attract more problems in your life.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The more compassion you have, the more problems you have to face.
Really?
Yeah. Because, because one has or is trying to develop the capacity to face them.
Right.
So in fact, when you become compassionate, problems come to you very easily.
But yeah.
Others. So you have to resolve those situations for others and for your own self.
Yes.
It becomes more challenging.
Maybe. I mean, if we look into the challenges that His Holiness had in this life, right? They were huge.
He's the most compassionate person, and
Yes.
look at the quantity.
It's true.
Yeah.
But do you think his mind is just as disturbed with the situation as that? No, right?
No.
No. When the compassion is there, the mind is not that disturbed.
Mind is not disturbed, but you are faced with a reality
Yes.
that is disturbing.
Yes, right.
But how you cope with that reality, your reaction changes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So His Holiness's reaction to the external world is very different
Yes.
than us normal people.
Yes.
So,
I mean, I think the job that you get is going to be bigger and bigger and bigger, no?
yes.
Because you can handle it.
Yeah.
And you should have the challenge in order to develop that compassion, right? Because if we say we are serious about developing our full potential, there should be more and more difficulties that is going to help you to develop that potential, right? But the mind is getting, in terms of quality, better and better, right? More peaceful, more joyous, more, or not?
Because then you stop reacting.
Because you stop reacting,
You
yes.
just act.
Yes, fantastic.
Not easy to do.
Not easy to do, absolutely not.
Tomorrow she's sitting
You should make a formal request, Nico.
We did in private, actually. She gave us a teaching in private once.
Yes. These are really very important skills to learn, to move through life. And what I see happening is that people get more and more hooked in their attachment, and they are more and more encouraged to follow their attachment, to follow their aversion. They have no tools to learn how to be with suffering, with their own suffering, right? We don't learn that in school, how to reunite with these aspects in us that have not been liked. We do not learn how to consolidate ourselves when we are in pain. We have not learned all these things we don't learn, you know. So then it's very difficult to be with unpleasant feelings. And so then the way we escape is by attachment. I distract myself with something that I like, right? I'm depressed. I don't know what to do with my depression. I'll go out and buy new shoes, for instance, right? I once had a lady and she said, I have at least 60 pairs of shoes at home and I'm not wearing them, but I get so happy when I'm buying them. So she would go out when she was depressed to buy shoes. Because she has no remedy what to do with when I feel sad or when I feel pain. How can I be with myself so that I know that I can comfort myself and that I can move through the pain, you know? We don't have these tools, they're not coming in our education anymore. But I think that is what we are lacking, right? And you know how to do that. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. but anyway, it's like I have the feeling that the way that we get encouraged, and it's not a good encouragement, you know, to move our life is more and more delusional, you know. Our delusions get triggered and we are encouraged to follow them. You should become the best in this and you shouldn't care about others, you only care about yourself. And it's like this selfishness gets promoted as being a good thing. And we are taught that our ethical values, you know, who cares about that? It's kind of old-fashioned. You don't have to do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. And so because of that tendency, do you see this tendency in society? Everywhere, right? And so it is very, very difficult to stay connected with your true nature, which is compassion, right? We have this compassionate nature, but we are encouraged by the way society works to move away from that. And so then when we meet something like this, Buddhism, where we learn to reconnect with our true nature, with our inner good qualities, you know, then we're standing out in the world. And you might have the feeling that, well, everybody is running into another direction and I'm going in this direction. So then we get confronted with maybe a fear of abandonment, right? We are not part of the group anymore. We are doing something very different. So then we get through that kind of emotional turmoil. And I think in order to walk the path, we have to go through all of that. But it's not easy, right? And so having a group like you have is fantastic, so that you can help each other to do that. But you have to know that you are going against the stream that most people are going. And so what you're doing is different. And what you're doing is therefore not weird. It is only weird because the very big group is doing something different. But actually what you're doing is the most normal thing that exists in the world. You're following who you truly are. You're following your nature. You want to develop your nature. Many challenges. So connection is the secret word. And if there's anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, in pain, disgusted, whatever reaction you have, think disconnection. Or this is just disconnection that I'm suffering from. How can I reconnect? And so when we have a struggle with someone, how can I reconnect with that person? Yeah, I don't like this and this and this, that's fine, but how can I reconnect? Is there something that I can connect? And just look for that, you know? And I think once we find that connection, these aversions, they easily can be overcome. But we always try to look for that connection. Right? Put it on your fridge, connection. Any questions? You want to check online?
How to remain compassionate if the person in front of you is deluded and abusing you ruthlessly? And also there was how compassion is different from empathy. Can we say that compassion is empathy in action?
I'm not so sure. Empathy goes a little bit further, no? Empathy is that you really can tune into what the other person is feeling. While compassion is the wish for others to be free of that suffering. So when you want to be empathic, you have to be very well grounded within yourself. Right, that's how I see the difference. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so what do you do when somebody is very abusive? I mean, it depends very much on the relationship maybe that you have with that person. For instance, if it is a stranger, I would say if you can run away, run away. If it is someone that is very close to you and you cannot run away, then you have to see that that person is very deluded, right? That is the right conclusion. When people become really, really angry, they are overtaken by their anger. They are not in control anymore. What helps me is that I think this person must be suffering a lot, that they have such strong reaction. And I try to connect with that suffering. Like, what are they actually suffering from? They are in pain, right? They're not just angry, they are in pain, and they are expressing their aversion to how they are feeling. And so when I'm focused on that, I'm not so worried about myself being in that situation, right? Because that is what happens when we are with someone who is abusive, that I'm going to be worried about me. And if somebody is just verbally abusive, if we focus the mind on the other person, we are not so focused on me. And then whatever that experience is not going to get so attached to me. So I try to connect with their suffering and see that they are completely overcome with their own delusions. You can connect really, really well with yourself and with your heart, and maybe also, I don't know, sometimes I call them as a permission, to come and be present. Or you can call to the bodhisattvas, the Buddhas and bodhisattvas, or you can call to any holy being to be with you and give you the strength to just be in that situation. You can pray for that person. I would not try to stop that person, right? Maybe depends. You can. When you try too hard, they might become more angry. But maybe you show your care. What's going on for you? What happened that you react like this? And when it is sincere care, then maybe that person can connect with that, and then they can let go of that. Shantideva in chapter 6, he gives many advice what we can do when somebody freaks out. Yes, but it's always difficult for us ordinary beings, to be with people who freak out. Any more questions?
There is also a phrase, it's called idiot compassion.
Idiot compassion, yes.
So could you elaborate that?
The idiot compassion, I think actually the people pleaser, right? That I said I was a people pleaser. The people pleaser has a little bit idiot compassion. Is or ignorant compassion, or it is the compassion without any wisdom, right? It is the compassion that is coming from fear. It is a compassion that is helping others because I have the feeling if I don't help you, you're not going to like me. I'm helping you because I hope I'm going to be part of this group when I help you. So my motivation is actually selfish, right? So there is no wisdom there. I'm helping you for another reason than actually helping you, right? I think this is what stupid compassion. Compassion, which is very short-sighted and very short-term, is often not so smart. So in general, when the self-grasping mind is there, the self-grasping mind is all worried about me, and it is worried about now. And so stupid compassion is also often in the that's how we call it, stupid compassion. It's in the present. It is, you just look at the present moment. There is no long-term vision there. I'm going to just do this because it's going to work now. And you think, just, for instance, somebody is crying and then immediately people are diving onto that person. And I sometimes think, just leave that person, give them their space to feel what they're feeling. It's like, I cannot stand that suffering and I have to stop the suffering. No, let people suffer, be with their suffering, acknowledge their suffering is so much more helpful than to shut them down, because you can't bear it. So stupid compassion, there is a lot, the ego is a lot in that compassion. It's a lot about me. I want you to be free of pain because I can't stand you being in pain. Well, this is my problem, that I can't stand you being in pain, right? I should resolve that problem. I should not put it on you by saying you should stop suffering because I can't stand it. You see that? So we have to, and we maybe do that also, like, I'm getting so affected by this injustice, or I get so infected by this and this. That's our problem. We have to look into that, why that is a problem for us, and heal that first before we take any action. Because when we take action with that in mind, it's going to be always dualistic. It's always going to create separation. It's always going to create, it's never going to bring you an everlasting effect of peace and happiness. Is that okay? Stupid compassion. I think wisdom is really, wisdom about suffering and how to be with suffering. That's such a key to your own happiness. And we avoid that whole story about suffering. We don't want to go there. Well, I think we find all the precious stones in there. Go into the suffering, into that deep ocean of suffering. And the more you understand what it is, where it's coming from, how you contribute to that, how you can stop doing that, how you can find an attitude within yourself that you can be with the suffering without getting involved into the suffering, the more tools you get in order to move through life without getting completely swept away by the events that are happening. You get a stability in yourself that helps you to move through whatever is on your way. And so we need to, brave heart and just say, I'm going to stay. I'm not going to walk away for this. Like you guys, what happened here, no? You had this flood. You didn't walk away. No. You cleaned it up and you restored it and you made it so much more beautiful than it was before. It's like, wow, how fantastic. And I think when we use opportunities, of disaster and pain and life like that, I'm just going to go in there, I'm going to clean it up and I move through it and I make it even more beautiful than it was before. Right? I connect with it. I'm not going to walk away. Yeah. I think that's healing. Good. Are we good with this? Shall we finish like this? Thank you so much for being here.
Well, we are very grateful, Venerable, that you took time out for us. And I'm sure tonight when we go back, we have plenty to meditate on. Thank you so much for your
welcome.
wisdom. Thank you. And please come again.
I will. Thank you very much. Can I give that as my small contribution to whatever's happening here?
No, no,
You're in
thank
this
you.
big renovation.
No, no, thank you. Next time.
Next. Thank you everyone for being here.